Good morning, students. In today's class, we are going to study about the topic Krebs cycle. Now, students, we know this topic comes under the process of respiration. What we have seen earlier that the glucose, by the process of glycolysis, breaks down into pyruvic acid. The glucose is a 6 carbon compound and it breaks down into a 3 carbon compound which is pyruvic acid. If the glucose is one molecule, then certainly the molecules of pyruvic acid which will form will be two molecules. It means that for every one molecule of glucose, two molecules of pyruvic acid are formed. This process is called as glycolysis, and there is one more name. It is also called as the EMP pathway. This we have seen earlier in the topic of glycolysis. The outcome is two molecules of pyruvic acid, and this is a cytoplasmic process. This process takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. Now, once the pyruvic acid is formed, this pyruvic acid is then converted into acetyl coenzyme A. The acetyl coenzyme A, which is formed from the pyruvic acid, is again two molecules because there are two molecules of pyruvic acid. So, two molecules of acetyl coenzyme A will be formed, and it is a 2 carbon containing compound. Now, this acetyl coenzyme A will further get broken down to release energy through another process which is called as the Krebs cycle. And this is our topic for study today, that we are going to study about Krebs cycle. Right. Now, this Krebs cycle is known by some other names also. It is called as Krebs cycle. It is called as TCA cycle. It is also known as citric acid cycle. Now, what is the reason behind it? The reason behind it is called Krebs cycle because this process was explained by a scientist called as Hansen Kreb. That's why it is called as Krebs cycle. It is also called as TCA because in this process, the TCA stands for actually tricarboxylic acid cycle, and it means that there are tri means three times carboxylation takes place in this process. So because of three times carboxylation, it is called as tricarboxylic acid cycle. It is also called a citric acid cycle. The reason is the first stable product of this process is citric acid. As the first stable product is citric acid, so it is called a citric acid cycle. The Krebs cycle is a process which takes place in the mitochondria. In the mitochondrial matrix, this process takes place. Right. Now, the process of Krebs cycle is a 10-step process. And as this process is a little bit complicated one to memorize, so we will follow a short trick, a mnemonic manner, so that we are able to remember this cycle in a easiest possible way. So to help you, I have designed a shortcut mnemonic which goes like this. To remember the steps of Krebs cycle, a 10 step process. The mnemonic is O, citric acid is of course a silly, stupid, funny molecule. This is a sentence which we have designed, and the sentence goes like this: O, citric acid is, of course, a silly, stupid, funny molecule. Now, from this sentence, what we have to do, we have to pick the first alphabet of the sentence. And each and every first alphabet is going to help us to memorize the names of the 10 compounds which will be formed during the process of this citric acid cycle. You know why? The tricarboxylic acid cycle. And as discovered by Mr. Hansen Krebs, so called as Krebs cycle. Now, the meaning of O is OAA, and it stands for oxaloacetic acid. Citric is for citric acid. Acid is for aconitic acid. Is, so this is for isocitric acid. Of course, so this, of course, there is first alphabet O, and it stands for oxalosuccinic acid. Oxalosuccinic acid. A, that is for alpha ketoglutaric acid. Just we are picking the first alphabet of each and every word of this statement. Silly. So this silly for succinyl coenzyme A. Succinyl coenzyme A. Stupid. So again there is S, and this is S for succinic acid. F, funny. So F for fumaric acid, and M, molecule, for malic acid. Now one thing more we have to remember, that out of these all 10 chemicals which are forming here, some are known by some other names also, like citric acid is also called by the name citrate. Aconitic acid is also called by the name aconitate. Isocitric acid also called as isocitrate. Oxalosuccinic acid is also called as oxalosuccinate. Alpha ketoglutaric acid also called as alpha ketoglutarate. Succinyl coenzyme A is succinyl coenzyme A. Succinic acid also known as succinate. Fumaric acid also known as fumarate, and malic acid is also known as malate. And see, by just remembering this statement, O citric acid is of course a silly, stupid, funny molecule. We are able to memorize all the 10 molecules which are forming during the process of Krebs cycle. Oxaloacetic acid, citric acid, aconitic acid, isocitric acid, oxalosuccinic acid, alpha ketoglutaric acid, succinyl coenzyme A, succinic acid, fumaric acid, and malic acid. Now, how this process, what are the different processes through which, suppose oxaloacetic acid is there, so this will get converted to citric acid by which process? Citric into aconitic by which process? Again, we have to memorize the processes which are converting one molecule into another molecule. And see, we are talking about Krebs cycle. So it is a cyclic process, and we will be able to better understand it when we draw the cycle. But which are the different processes involved for converting one molecule into the next one? So this is one short trick to remember all the names, and there is one more short trick to remember all the processes which are involved in converting one compound into the next one. And for this, I have designed a short trick method which goes like this. It is called as CD Rhododipoho. Now again you have to remember this name. It's a short trick mnemonic form, CD Rhododipoho, right? And we are taking the first alphabet for the name of the process which will be involved in converting one molecule into next. Now which are they? So for this I am writing it again. It is CD Rhodo D and then POHO. CD Rododi Poho. See, you just count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 10. These are 10 processes. These are the 10 processes. And these are the 10 molecules which are forming by these processes. Now, what is the meaning of these words? The alphabet C stands for condensation. C for condensation. The alphabet D stands for dehydration. R stands for rehydration. O for oxi oxidation. D for after oxidation. D for decarboxylation. Now the next is OD. After D it is OD. OD means there are two processes. This is oxidative decarboxylation. Oxidative decarboxylation. P for phosphorylation. O for oxidation. H for hydration. And again O for oxidation. It means that these are the 10 processes. See, in Krebs cycle, the difficult aspect is to remember the 10 steps. Which are the 10 steps? So these are the 10 steps. The first step which takes place in Krebs cycle is condensation, followed by dehydration, then rehydration, then oxidation, then decarboxylation, oxidative decarboxylation. This is step. See, this is first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one, eighth, ninth, and 10th. In the sixth step, there are two processes involved. Oxidation followed with decarboxylation. Seventh, there will be phosphorylation. Eighth, there will be oxidation. Ninth, there will be hydration. And 10th, there will be oxidation. Right. These are the 10 steps of Krebs cycle, and each step is going to form 10 different molecules, and these are the 10 molecules of Krebs cycle. How we have memorized it? Just by making two statements. Oh, citric acid is of course a silly, stupid, funny molecule. 10 molecules are with us. CD rhododipoho, 10 steps are with us. So this is a short trick method which we can use to memorize this type of typical process. Now just I want to show you the cyclic event which takes place in the Krebs cycle. This I am not going to erase because these are the steps which we are going to use. But these names I am going to erase. Now please do remember which is the sentence. Oh, citric acid is of course a silly, stupid, funny molecule. Now here is our Krebs cycle which we can draw very easily. Uh, just I have to make a circle first. Right. And in this circle we are going to represent the Krebs cycle. This is the first molecule, the second molecule, the third molecule, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and the 10th molecule. They are the 10 molecules. Now, how to remember these 10 molecules? Which is the first molecule? O. O means, which is the meaning of O? Oxaloacetic acid. Citric. So, this is citric acid. Is, that is isocitric, sorry, O citric acid. So, A, that is aconitic acid. Is, that is isocitric acid. O citric acid is, of course means oxalosuccinic acid. O citric acid is of course A means alpha keto glutaric acid. O citric acid is of course a silly. Silly means succinyl coenzyme A. Silly, stupid. Stupid means succinic acid. Silly, stupid, funny. Funny means fumaric acid. Molecule. Molecule means malic acid. The cycle is here. O citric acid is of course a silly, stupid, funny molecule. This process is taking place in the mitochondrial matrix. So here's the mitochondrial matrix. What enters into the mitochondria? So in the cytoplasm, glucose was there. This glucose breaks into pyruvic acid, and the pyruvic acid gets converted into acetyl coenzyme A. And then it enters, this acetyl CoA enters into the mitochondrial matrix. Now see, it is a 6 carbon compound. It is a 3 carbon compound. Acetyl coenzyme A is a 2 carbon compound. This oxaloacetic acid is a 4 carbon compound. The acetyl coenzyme A, which will be the first process, condensation. So the acetyl coenzyme A will condense with oxaloacetic acid. So when a 2 carbon compound condenses with a 4 carbon compound, it forms the citric acid, which will be a 6 carbon compound. 4 carbon with 2 carbon, 6 carbon. By which process? So which is this process? This process is condensation. Right. Now how the citric acid converts into aconitic acid? So this is dehydration. This will be the step number 2. This is dehydration. Now aconitic acid will convert into isocitric acid. By which process? Rehydration. So this will be rehydration. What is the meaning of dehydration? There will be loss of water. What is the meaning of rehydration? There will be gain of water. Very easily we can do it. Right. And this citric acid was 6 carbon. Aconitic acid will be also 6 carbon. Isocitric will be also of 6 carbon. What happens in the fourth step? Oxidation. So in oxidation what happens? The NAD will be reduced to NADH2. This process is oxidation. Very easily we can do it. Which is the fifth step? Decarboxylation. What is the meaning of decarboxylation? Removal of carbon dioxide. This was 6 carbon, so this oxalosuccinic acid will be also 6 carbon. From oxalosuccinic acid, one CO2 is reduced, it is removed, means one loss of carbon. So alpha ketoglutaric acid will be a 5 carbon compound. What happens in the sixth step? Oxidative decarboxylation means oxidation along with decarboxylation in the sixth step, this one. So what actually happens here, that there will be oxidation, means the NAD will be further reduced into NADH2 along with decarboxylation, means there will be one more removal of carbon dioxide. So when one more CO2 is reduced from alpha ketoglutaric acid, succinyl coenzyme A will have 4 carbon, and remaining all are going to have 4 carbon. This succinic acid will also have 4 carbon. The fumaric acid will also have 4 carbon, malic acid will also have 4 carbon, and oxaloacetic acid is again a 4 carbon compound. What will happen in seventh step? Phosphorylation. Then phosphorylation means what? Seventh step phosphorylation. Addition of phosphate means from ADP, but it is actually GDP. Right? Diphosphate, one more phosphate is added. It will become GTP. This is phosphorylation. Right? What happens in ninth step? Hydration. Hydration means addition of water. So water enters here, H2O. Right? What happens in the tenth step? Oxidation. It means there is again reduction of this in the 10th step. This is the 10th step, right? So FAD is reduced into FADH2. So by this way, simply we can easily remember the Krebs cycle just by using a mnemonic form. This is all for today, students. Thank you.